Alrighty, so I just wanted to do a quick video here about different ways that we can sort of take information that we gather from user studies and then get some metrics from it and sort of see some sort of bigger picture and really start to examine the data. So I'm pretending like I had a really super simple user study here. Of course, you're expected to be much more verbose in terms of what you're asking people and the information you gather. But I have my questions up here. Was the interface easy to use? How happy did the interface make you? And did it have all the features you were expecting? And the assumptions that I took while basically creating this fake study is that the users will be answering these questions on a sliding scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the most negative answer they can give. The interface was incredibly difficult to use, for instance, and 10 would be the most positive, as in, yes, it was very easy to use. So, I can kind of look at these numbers here, but, it's hard to understand really what the big picture is, what was the average, and that sort of thing. So the first technique that we can use is actually within Google Spreadsheets itself. So down at the bottom, there's this sort of Explore button. If I press that, then it brings up a interface where you're able to actually kind of ask it questions about your data, and then it will return basically formulas that you can then just transport into the spreadsheets in order to get these sorts of things. So, obviously you can go and you can manually do that. You can go in here and be like, okay, well, this is equal to the sum of B2 to B16, right? Let's say sum, and then we can divide that by 15, which is how many users we have, and it'll give us an average of 5.4. There's many ways you can implement it. Of course, that's not the most effective way. It'll break if I add new users, and etc., etc. But the easiest way to do it without even any programming or memorizing what these formulas are is you can go into this Explore tab and you can ask it a question. You can say, for instance, average of column D. And then if you hit enter, then it will tell you basically what the average of column D is. And then if you click on show formula, then you can drag this into any cell and it will apply that formula to the cell, which is super cool, super awesome. And then so we can do the same thing. Okay, what was the average of column C? We can get the formula for that, and you can see it's just equal to average C2 to C16, and then do the same thing for average of column B, right? So this is cool. So we can easily kind of get access to these formulas by asking questions in human English, right? The other cool thing is if you just open up this Explore tab without typing anything in, it will give you its own sort of analysis of that information. So for instance, it's giving me a chart here showing the different users, a bar graph, and also give me metrics down here. User 6 has the highest value of 10, the second highest value was 9, which is super cool. It'll give these different types of visualization tools, and then I can grab this and sort of like drag it in here, and then you can even have this sort of graph right next to the spreadsheet. So that's super cool. The second technique that we're going to go over is by actually using Keynote, oddly enough. So if I create a new slide here, and if I go to let's see, insert, and then insert chart, and if I can choose any of these sorts of charts here. Let's say I'll do a bar chart here, a bar graph, and then if I click down here on edit chart data, then it'll bring up a spreadsheet. So I can actually go back to my Google spreadsheet here. I'm just gonna do Command C to copy those rows and columns. And then I can go up into the left-hand corner here, and then Command V to paste. And then, bam, it updates the graph with the data. I sort of have these junk columns at the end here. I don't really know what those correspond to, so I'll just delete that. And then we have a chart that shows that information. And then we can make it a little bit bigger. We can expand it so we can actually see everything that's going on. And then if we go to format, then we have different options, right? So we can change the colors it uses to display it. We can give it a title, which we don't have right now, a legend, right? So you can actually see what these different colors mean. I don't really know why that's kind of overlaid right there. Um, and then we can also add things like, we'll add shadows to it, kind of blur those shadows, give it a little bit of an offset. And we can actually dynamically change what type of a chart it is. So say I want to change it to a 3D column, and then boom, it changes to the 3D column. I can use this to sort of rotate it around, reposition it. Um, I can change the chart depth and make it more or less um, deep, I guess. Let's say I like that. And then the other thing we can do is we can actually animate this. So we click on the animation tab up here, and then there are built-ins, add an effect. And then for the 3D chart effects, we can use, for instance, 3D grow, and then it'll appear like that. Or we can change the duration of that. So maybe we want it to be a little bit slower. We can also have it so it sort of cascades, so it doesn't do it all at once. And there's a lot of different options for how you can have it basically display these graphs and this information, which is super cool. And then furthermore, then we can actually export these as a QuickTime video, and then you can import it into Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, or any sort of video editing program, which will end up being a really useful technique for putting together the final presentations and the final documentation. Now, I'm also going to make another video about how to use a little bit more advanced tools, such as the Google Data Studio, in a later video. But hopefully this is enough to kind of get you up and running and get you to a point where you can actually visually look at the data and hopefully get more meaning from it. All right, hopefully that was helpful. Until next time.